So since I had a little cry yesterday over my daughter and all that, I figured maybe get into a little more detail about that story for anyone who doesn't know. And I think it could help some people who might be ever expecting children. So I got pregnant likely around the end of December 2017 or beginning of January 2018. I was living in Pine Hill, New Jersey at the time. Pine Hill's a cute little town. And this is the hospital I went to. It's called Virtua Voorhees Hospital. Don't you chew on that. I'm talking to my cat. She's chewing on a very important box that I will show you in a minute. Here, I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. You're being naughty. He's chewing on the corner there. Yeah, so I, as soon as I found out I was pregnant, which was towards the end of January 2018, I quit smoking tobacco immediately. I didn't need any help. I just quit. I was just, done. And that's the longest I quit smoking since I started back in my high school years. Like a senior in high school, I began kind of sneaking out in the woods and smoking cigarettes. But I quit for the bulk of my pregnancy as soon as I found out I was pregnant, up till about a month after the pregnancy was over. And I had every intention of never starting up again, except maybe like when I was an 80-some-year-old woman with grandkids that were almost totally grown too. It was like, maybe one day when I have no more responsibilities to any children. But yeah, we lost her. So, and I turned back to cigarettes during a party with some friends. I guess my ex took me out to this party with friends about a month after we had lost her to cheer me up, and they were smoking, and I asked for one and then asked for another and then bought a pack and then I was smoking again. And so I started going to Virtua Voorhees, to their maternity ward, obviously, for my checkups, like a good little pregnant woman. You go in. At first, they have them pretty spaced out, maybe about once a month, once or twice a month, maybe about once every 3 weeks or so. And then in your last month of pregnancy, they get you down to once a week. They have you coming in more frequently. And I spent that time just trying to focus on my health. I was doing the Bradley method. So here's Bradley method. I was really into it. I was really like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this right. I'm going to be a good mommy. Bradley method is, sort of a method for doing the best you can as a mommy and raising your baby to the best of your abilities. I went to Bradley method classes with my ex. You can go to classes and you can be taught by other couples that have gone through the Bradley method, and we had a great couple that taught us. They had like a beautiful family. Oh my gosh, it was so beautiful. Beautiful little house in the suburbs, not little, and they had like 6 kids. They're all gorgeous and sweet, and like the couple just looked so happy, and the whole situation just looked so amazing, and they all looked so well adjusted, and the wife was very hardcore about certain things. Like, she didn't touch raw meat. Like, her body was a temple, she didn't touch raw meat. Her husband had to handle raw meat. She probably didn't touch trash, certain kinds of trash and stuff. Maybe she would touch the trash bag if it were closed up and all that, but she really like did not, at least when she's pregnant, she put herself through these rules because it was just a matter of making sure not to expose her babies to anything that could cause any kind of damage to them. And I did Leche League. Leche League, for those of you, is like, well, I went to one before I lost her. Leche League. La Leche League is also for expectant mothers and for mothers who've just had a baby and they're breastfeeding. And sometimes it takes support because sometimes it doesn't go quite as you expect, and sometimes you need like the support of other mothers, like, you know, telling you, here's a trick I learned if you want to get the baby to stop gnawing on your nipple and stuff like that. So I went to some one or two of these get-togethers towards the end of my pregnancy. And I just focused on, like, a big part of Bradley method is making sure, is like your diet, making sure your diet is good. Is they have like a quota for how much protein you need to eat every day, and vitamins. So I was really focused on making sure that I met my protein quota and was eating organic, healthy foods and taking organic pregnancy vitamins, prenatal vitamins, and walking, going for walks in nature around this lake I had nearby where I was living, and went out on my kayak a few times, just on like a pond on a lake that was there was nothing hazardous about it. It was just a calm little float around on the water where I'd eat a sandwich and sing songs to my daughter. And this was when she was I was pretty far along, so she was big enough to kind of dance around. And, you know, dudes don't get this. A lot of dudes don't get this. Some women don't get this, who've never had a baby in them. But, like, you know, they don't see a baby as a person until it comes out of you. But a woman who's been pregnant will tell you that at the very least, like, you start seeing that baby as a person when it starts moving around in you. You know, that's at the latest. That's because they're responding to you. You know, you speak to them, you sing to them, they move around and dance. They tell you they don't like it when you eat certain foods and stuff with kicks so yeah, I would talk to her. And I spent so much of that time, months and months, the bulk of my pregnancy, doing so much research into vaccines. That's why I'm really hardcore about no vaccination. Because I can't tell you how many published medical papers on sodium fluoride, which is a commonly used adjutant in most vaccines. And it is a toxin. It's a cumulative toxin. It's a poison. You don't want that stuff in your body ever, not even in small trace amounts. You don't want it anywhere ever near you. And they put it in toothpaste, and they put it in drinking water, in tap water, and that's not because it's good for you. It's because, like, it's about profit at that level. That's just the way it is. And on some level, it's about population control, because Nazi scientists used sodium fluoride to experiment on concentration camp prisoners back during World War II. And they published papers talking about how it was good for keeping them more docile and keeping them more easily controlled. And it made you less empathetic too. And it was sort of like the Homer Simpson. Homer Simpson. That's a problem for future Homer. There we go. Let's see. I don't want to play the video. We'll just do. It's a problem for future Homer. So that's what it means sometimes to have less empathy, and that's what sodium fluoride does. It attacks your ability to have a lot of empathy. And it doesn't just mean less empathy for others. It means less empathy for yourself and, like, your own future plight. So it made people more likely to just, bide their time in the concentration camp, knowing that eventually they were going to be the next ones to go into the oven, so to speak, to go into the gas chambers. They didn't take any action. They watched the other prisoners slowly getting put into the gas chambers and getting put into the ovens, and they didn't calculate like, oh, that's going to be me one day, because they were being pumped full of sodium fluoride in their drinking water. And they didn't, it made them not take any action to try and avoid that eventual fate. So it means less empathy, not just towards others, but toward yourself. So it's why it's like, that's a problem for future Homer. Sure glad I'm not him. So when I did that, I did a lot of research, a lot. I presented that to my mom, who's a nurse practitioner, and she even had to admit, like, damn, I didn't know any of this. They didn't teach us this stuff in nursing school. It's like, yeah, well, they wouldn't, because a lot of it's a big money racket. A lot of the medical profession has gone past trying to be in the best interest of their patients, the good health of their patients, and it's really just a money-making racket now, and that's the point of this video. So let's circle back around to Virtua Voorhees. So yeah, for the most part, they were very impressed with my pregnancy. They were all very pleased with it, because I would come in for every checkup, and they'd measure your belly, they'd take your weight, they'd check your blood pressure, and they were just like, oh my gosh, you are stellar. My blood pressure was great. My belly size was increasing at a rate that it should be. It wasn't too much, it wasn't too little. My weight was increasing at the rate that it should be increasing. Not too much, not too little. They were just like, this baby is fabulous. Your pregnancy is fabulous. You are spot on. There have been no problems. Love it, love it, love it. And I was like, yep, that's me. I'm good little mommy. But we got up towards August. We were coming, her due date was September 7th. And so we were in the last month, and we were down to weekly visits at the hospital. Let me show you some pictures of this hospital. There it is. It's big. It's a megalithic monstrosity. It's a huge hospital. And it's probably one of the main hospitals in the state. One of the biggest moneymaker hospitals in the whole state. And I know of a lot of hospitals in New Jersey, because I come from a family of medical professionals, nurses, nurse practitioners, paramedics and stuff. So I've seen my fair share of different hospitals and medical clinics and such. And because I was so attentive to my pregnancy and to her movements, when we got down to the last month, I started to realize, when we were roughly maybe the first to second week of August, something like that, I started to realize, I started to get a bad feeling, and I started to think, she's not moving as much as she was, and she's not moving as much as I think she should be for this being this far along and this developed. We're in our 9th month, she should be way more active than she is. And I just was getting this bad feeling in my gut that something was not right. Something was off. There was some movement, but not enough. And because we were down to our weekly visits, I would go into this hospital every week. I went in, so this would have been my last weekly visit there with them would have been on the 21st. I know, because she was stillborn on the 22nd. August 22nd, 2018. And she came, she was born, like born, not born, I don't know what you call it, stillborn, the day after I was scheduled for my checkup. So that would have been the 21st. Well, the one before that, so 7 days prior to the 21st, that's what, like the 14th, something like that. So roughly around the 14th, August 14th, when I went in for that checkup, I told them, I'm really worried. Something is wrong. I feel like something's wrong with her. She's not moving like she should be. And I said this to the nurse. They dropped, they had taken my blood pressure. They took my weight. They brought me back to the little room and measured my belly. And I told the nurse, I was like, something is wrong. I feel like something's wrong. Like something's off. She's not moving like she should be moving. And I was hoping that they would, do some kind of extra checkup, something. And instead the nurse went out of the room, probably to talk to this chick right here. Now, there was a doctor and a nurse practitioner assigned to my pregnancy. This is the nurse practitioner, Meryl Penalver. I don't remember the doctor's name. I'm sure I could dig it up somewhere. I barely saw them. I saw her and he once at the beginning of the pregnancy, and then I saw them at the end of the pregnancy when she was dead. Once. That was it. And all in between was just nurses. Just taking my vitals and sometimes leaving the room and going and asking them a question and coming back in and relaying their answer to me. So the nurse left the room, and I assume went to talk to this chick, Meryl Penalver, and or the doctor, and came back in the room and said, oh, you know what? She's just a big baby. She just doesn't have a lot of room to move around anymore. So that's just why. You're fine. You're good. And sent me home. Now, this is a big, well-funded hospital. Well-funded. They got a lot of money. And one of the reasons they got a lot of money is because they just, revolving door their patients in and out of there as quickly as possible. So because they want to charge insurance cards. They want to charge as many as they can. So if they can get a patient in and out, particularly like a pregnancy patient, because most pregnancies, most of them don't have a lot of problems. A typical pregnancy is just, you're coming in, you're doing a quick checkup. They're making they should be making sure there's nothing wrong with the baby, particularly if the mom is saying she thinks there's a problem. But that's easy money for this for this hospital. That's easy money, because a pregnancy will typically go off without a hitch, and the women are just coming in for their own peace of mind, to do little checkups, to make sure the baby's all right, and you're just charging them you're charging their insurance card probably a lot of money. I don't know exactly how much they were charging my insurance, but probably a lot of money for what they were doing, which was just taking my weight and my blood pressure and measuring my belly for the most part. And that's it. And they wanted to do that with as many women as possible in, a 24-hour period of time or whatever. And so they didn't want to take the time to break out the sonogram machine. They were fitted with plenty of these machines for, looking at the belly, at the baby on the inside. And if they had done that, they would have seen that, oh yes, there was a problem with the baby. My daughter had the cord wrapped around her neck, which there are babies that are born with the cord wrapped around their neck and they survive, but it's certainly more of a risk. And they would have also seen that her umbilical cord was half the length of a normal cord. It was half the length, so she had no room to move. She was being strangled by her cord, and it got clipped somewhere, clamped down on somewhere, and she stopped getting nutrition. She was still alive on the 14th on August 14th, when I went in there and I told them I was worried about her, she was still alive. She was still kicking once in a while. If they had checked then, when I voiced my concerns, when a mother who was pregnant with her baby had some women's intuition and some gut instinct and said, like, I think something's wrong. Could you check? Do you think there's something wrong? If they had just broken out that machine, taken a little bit of extra time, and worried more about the well-being of their patient and their patient's baby instead of trying to be able to charge yet another fucking insurance card and getting me in and out of there as quickly as possible, she'd be alive. They would have seen, she's got a short cord and it's wrapped around her neck, and we see that there's a little bit of clamping here. This is probably why she's not moving as much. And the mom was right. There's a problem here, and we need to do emergency C-section. And she was far enough along. We were in our 9th month. We were 8.5 months. She was definitely far enough along. Babies are born a couple weeks early all the time. Like, she could have survived. She could easily be here today. How old would she be now? She'd be 6 years old now. I'd have a 6-year-old daughter. Right now. If they had done their fucking job, if this bitch had done her fucking job. Yeah, so I just trusted them. That's what I was taught. I was born and raised by a family of medical professionals, and I was taught just, do what they tell you to do. The nurses know best, the doctors know best. Do what they tell you to do. Even though I kind of knew better than to just listen to them blindly. That's why I was researching vaccines. I was like, I knew that the whole medical community is obsessed with vaccines right now, but I also knew that the medical community as a whole makes huge mistakes. Like, for example, did you guys know polio doesn't really exist? Most of you don't know that. A lot of the medical community still doesn't even know that. Polio is not it's not a real illness. It's actually 3 different illnesses that they thought was one illness at one point, and we know better now. But most people, even today, we've known this for a while. Like, technically, we've known polio is not an actual disease for a while, a few decades at least. But, the whole world, even the medical community, still hasn't caught up to that. So that's what I mean by and a lot of times the treatments that they gave people for polio, quote unquote polio, that they didn't actually have, probably worsened their illness. So I didn't want, and because I was hearing things about vaccines from people, I was like, you know what, I'm going to make it my responsibility to know about what's in these vaccines before I let people inject my child with them. And that's why I spent so many months researching them. And again, I'm telling you guys right now, no bueno, don't get vaccinated. Don't do it. Most vaccines have sodium fluoride in them in trace amounts, used as an adjutant. And you don't ever want that stuff anywhere near your body. You don't want it in your body ever at all, not in any capacity. Never. Sodium fluoride is horrible stuff. Horrible. Our bodies are not made to process it. It is not aluminum. It is the byproduct of processing aluminum. Some vaccine companies, their little witches, their little spin doctors will try to change the argument and say, like, aluminum's in the atmosphere, and our bodies are used to processing aluminum. It's not aluminum. It's the toxic byproduct of processing aluminum from its raw form into its the form we use it for, for making our laptops and such. And as a result of that process we put it through, it creates a byproduct, and that's called sodium fluoride. And sodium fluoride is awful shit. You just don't want it in you. You don't want it in your toothpaste. You don't want it in your drinking water. The United States started putting it in tap water. They started using it to, quote unquote, treat the drinking water in this country, in and around every major city, right after World War II ended. So in the early 50s, 1950s. World War II ended in the mid-late 40s. It took a few years for them to get those Nazi scientists over here to to the States and sit down with them and tell them, tell us what you learned. And then they must have decided that the sodium fluoride experiments that they did on those concentration camp prisoners, that would be useful at controlling the American population, and they started putting that stuff in the water. So again, I say, don't drink the tap water. Make sure you have non-fluoridated toothpaste, and don't get vaccinated. It's better you build a natural immunity than have your epigenetics, your DNA messed with, than have your be passing along bad DNA to your children, because I won't go into it anymore than that. Maybe I'll make another video dedicated to vaccines, but don't do it. Sodium fluoride is not your friend. Yeah, so this lady, she didn't do her job. She didn't do her job at all. I didn't see her again. I didn't see her for most of that whole pregnancy. I should have gotten a doula. I was thinking about it. So yeah, so they on the 21st, they couldn't find a heartbeat. That's another thing they would check, is they would quickly listen for the baby's heartbeat, and they couldn't find her heartbeat. And then they brought in the fucking machine. And they said, yeah, she's gone. She's gone, and they had to induce labor. And I was in labor for about almost exactly 24 hours. So I was there. I went in the morning on the 21st, and then I gave birth to her in the morning on the 22nd. And then I was allowed to stay there with her for about a day. They kept her in a little chilled baby carriage buggy thing next to my bed. And yeah. In the process of them trying to induce labor, I was not dilating fast enough for them, so they pumped me with double the dose of this. I forget what the name of it was, some kind of a medicine that makes you dilate, makes your cervix dilate. They gave me twice the dose they were supposed to give me, so I went from being about 2 to 3 centimeters dilated to fully 10 centimeters dilated in less than an hour. And why that's dangerous is because your uterus can rupture and you can just bleed out and die. They're very lucky that didn't happen to me. I almost died giving birth to this baby because, again, they just dropped the ball so many fucking times. So yeah. Oh, here you go. Look. Here's what they did for me. Oh, how nice of them. So they have this thing called an angel garden at the hospital. See all those little squares on that wall? Those are plaques with babies' names on them. We had to pay to have a plaque for my baby on that wall. Her name's Althea. So it's almost like they're saying, look, here's another one of our victims. We had her killed, and then we had the parents pay for us to memorialize her. Yeah, that's a wall of their victims there. The kids that they didn't do a good enough job for. So my daughter's name is up on there. My ex or my mom or somebody in my family, I didn't pay. I was so fucking out of it. During all of that, I was barely processing what was going on. As soon as they told me she was dead, I was just kind of I was just letting them kind of maneuver me, go over here, stay here, sit here. Because I was just trying to process that I had spent 8.5 months dedicated to this baby and talking to her and singing to her and dreaming about all the things we were going to do together. And now there's just this plaque that they have that I you know, I'm not in New Jersey. I don't get to, nor do I really ever want to. It's stupid. It's stupid to have that plaque up there because, like, I never want to go to that fucking hospital ever again. So, like, when the fuck am I ever going to see it? But, yeah, there's a plaque up there, should be, on this angel garden, this wall at the hospital with my daughter's name on it. That we had to pay for. The hospital should have just fucking thrown that in for fucking free, don't you think? Like, yeah, sorry, your daughter is dead because we didn't do our jobs. But yeah, could you give us some money? Give us more money, and maybe we'll make a little plaque with her name on it and put it up on this wall. Pieces of trash, piece of shit, fucking bullshit. Yeah. So, oh, look, a butterfly. So that reminds me, here we go. So they gave me this box. Somebody made this box, I don't know who. Someone at the hospital. After I gave birth to her, I remember she was covered in that white stuff. I forget what it's called. Babies, when they're born, they're covered in this sort of white mucus. Helps protect them in their skin. And the nurses a lot of times will take the baby for a few minutes and, like, wipe that stuff off. Some moms choose to keep it on for a while. You can choose that. But I was not in my right mind even a little bit. And they were just like, we're going to take her and wash her off and bring her right back to you. And because she had been dead in my body, in my womb for probably about a day, at least a day, she was like, you know, she was floating around in liquid, dead. So her skin was starting to loosen and slough. So when they went to wipe her down, they like ripped chunks of her skin and flesh away. So when they handed her back to me, it looks like she'd been mauled by a fucking dog. Man, it was all... I just as soon have kept her with the white stuff all over her, you know? She looked just gruesome after they handed her back to me. She was just covered in blood and scars. Like you'd think after the first little bit, they would have been like, oh, okay, this is not going to work out. Let's stop wiping this stuff off, or we're going to be handing back like a bloody rag doll to this poor woman who's already in enough shock, you know? Like, no, they kept... I mean, she was just, like, covered in... it. She looked like she'd been mauled by something. She didn't look that way, when she came out of me, but it's because they were trying to wipe stuff off. So this is all I have of her. It's this blanket that they wrapped her in. They did a little cast molding of her feet. Like, that's how big she was. And she was small. They were saying she was going to be a big baby. She wasn't. When she came out of me, she was like 4.5 pounds. They were not doing a good enough job keeping track of her growth, and that I didn't know any better. I just thought that, everything that was going down was the way it was supposed to go down. My mom was down in Cape May, New Jersey, so she was not coming up for all of the, it's like an hour and a half drive from Cape May up to where I was, up to Voorhees, Virtua Voorhees. She wasn't coming up for all the checkups, so I just thought, but like, if they had broken out that sonogram a little bit more often, maybe they could have seen, like, oh, she's actually a really skinny little baby. I was like, why was I, gaining weight, and my belly was getting bigger, on a good schedule, if she was so small? They were weird. People were estimating she was going to be like 8-9 pounds, and she was like 4 pounds 7 ounces. They so fucking fucked it up, man. Here's her little hat. And then this is the little, here's a note that my ex, her father, gave to me once. He and I didn't work out. 6 months after that, he didn't want her. He wanted me to abort her, and I told him no. And so when she died, it was just like, he promised. He was telling me we were going to have another baby, and he was buying a house for us. You can see some of her blood there. There shouldn't have been blood. Like, she was, but again, it was because they mangled her, like trying to wipe the white, I think it's called like cecum or something. I don't know. It's like this white, oily substance that, protects the baby's skin when they first are born. It's almost like a sunblock or something. And they wiped it off of her in the process because she was already dead and her skin was sloughing off. They just ripped gashes in her skin and handed her back to me all bloody and mutilated. But yeah, my ex feigned like he was interested in having a family and a baby and all that for a while after we lost her. I think just to keep me around cooking and cleaning for him for as long as he could possibly keep me for. And then after about 6 months, when come on, baby boy, stop. The kitten is chewing on my foot and ankle. I started kind of putting my foot down after 6 months, saying, like, I want to try for another baby. And then he started going back on his word. And I was like, where's this house you said you're going to buy? Because he moved me in with his mom. And I was taking care of his mother, who was dying of cancer. And so, yeah. And, it all fell apart when I put my foot down. So, like, I'm not doing any more free labor for you and your mother if you're not going to keep some kind of, like, keep your word to me. Where's the baby? Where's the house? So this is the one she was wearing. It's got the blood all over it. It doesn't smell like her anymore. It used to smell like her. Now it just smells like old stored clothing. It used to have like that baby smell. It just smells like kind of musty old clothing that's been stored away now. So once in a while I used to come into this box and smell the clothes. Yeah, so I don't know what's in these little boxes. Nothing's in this one. These were earrings my mom gave me from, quote unquote, from my daughter, but they got lost. I don't know if they put her hair in these, little samples of her hair in these or not. I don't remember. Let's see. Yeah. There's her hair. I remember she was gorgeous. She was gorgeous. She was going to have long legs like her father. I was very pleased with that. And she was going to have a little upturned nose like her father, which I was hoping for. I was really hoping for her to have a nose more like on the girls on her dad's side of the family, because I got a big goose honker nose from my dad. She had this beautiful little nose and a perfect little mouth. And she had strawberry blonde hair. You could tell, even though it was all slicked back and wet, it had that pretty kind of a reddish gold sheen to it. And there were she didn't have any teeth, so they couldn't put any teeth in the little tooth box. So, yeah. That's all I have of my daughter anymore. So for you expecting parents out there, if you would like to avoid having nothing of your child but a box, any parents out there, even if you already have your kids, you might have to fucking hold medical people accountable and make sure that they fucking do their jobs, you know? Make sure they give a shit. Make sure they're more focused on doing the best they can for the good health of their patients than they are on pulling down a bigger paycheck. Because to be sure, these medical professionals, they're making enough money. They were already, like, they have more than enough. It was just more. I want more. We need more money, more. And that's what led to this. And so a lot of times quantity means less quality. More quantity means less quality. And that reminds me of Richard Hart. That reminds me of one of my suspects. Right, Richie Rich? More. You remind me of one of those guys. Richard Hart, this guy, he's a cryptocurrency asshole. Let's see. Yeah, I've got like a $30 million or $3 million or $30 million watch collection and the world's biggest black diamond and all that shit. He reminds me of like that one guy in like the Wolf of Wall Street movies or whatever, the one with Shia LaBeouf, where Shia LaBeouf asks this dude, you know, what's your number? At what number are you satisfied? And the guy responds, more. More, like he'll never be satisfied. He just wants more. And that's what leads to shit like this, to shit like babies being dead when they don't need to be dead. You know, like that's what leads to heartbroken mommies. The behavior of people like Richard Hart, the behavior of people like Chris Thompson, the behavior of people like Zay Frank, who don't give a shit about anything except I want money and I want to do as little work as possible for it. I'll be a professional clown. I'll sing, song, and dance. And you can just throw your gold coins at me, but I won't be a firefighter. I won't go build a house. I won't do anything of any real value. Like we don't need professional clowns to survive. You know, we don't need them. My cats make me fucking laugh all the time. Things just naturally in nature, like, look around you. Things make us laugh all the time. We don't need professional clowns to make us laugh. But we need our children to be safe and healthy. We need our medical professionals to do their fucking jobs, don't we? And the more you make this society just totally hell-bent and revolve around money making, the more we end up with this shit. And my next video is going to be talking about these dudes and like how they're clearly part of a secret society. And secret societies are like the Freemasons tout themselves as being the guardians of our society, being the ones that are like, you know, are guiding our society. The ones that are molding our societal standards and the direction that our species and our planet and our cultures go in. And it's like, well, you're responsible for this in a lot of ways. Congratulations, you assholes. This is what you've brought us to. Babies dying for no fucking reason other than greed. More dudes who need more. Yeah, so I think that's about it. I'm just gonna leave it there. Yeah. This hospital killed my daughter with their negligence, and in the wake of her death, yeah, so I'll leave it with this. In the wake of her death, I went around to, I can't tell you how many lawyers. I called around to so many effing lawyers. I mean, oh my gosh, a long list of lawyers. And for each and every one, I had to sit there and I had to recount this story to their assistant or whoever, every single time. And every single time after I would tell them the story, of how this whole thing went down, they would be salivating. You could hear it in their voice that they were excited because this was a case. This was clearly negligence. This baby did not need to die. They didn't do their job correctly. And they were excited to take the case on, and then I wouldn't hear back from them. And then I'd call them up and be like, what's going on? And they'd be like, well, you have a case, but we unfortunately can't take the case on. We do suggest that you you find another lawyer though, because you have a case. And after I went through so many lawyers trying to, get somebody to take the case, I realized I looked into it a bit more and I realized, it's damn near impossible to get any kind of money payout for the death of a loved one or family member in the state of New Jersey. So even if we won the case, I had no money to pay these lawyers. It would have been a matter of you guys can get a cut of whatever we get out of this trial. Well, remember, this is a big hospital, so they've got a big legal team, right? And it really would have just been a matter of we might have won the court case, but we probably wouldn't have gotten any money. And so the lawyers were like, we don't, they didn't tell me this to my face, but they were basically saying, we don't see a reason to take it on. We're not going to get any money out of this. Yes, you were wronged. Yes, your daughter died unnecessarily. Yeah, you do have a case. You deserve justice, but this is also a money-making business, and we're not going to make any money off this, so we can't take your case. And because I had no money to pay a lawyer for justice, you just had to swallow your daughter's death. You just had to swallow that shit down. So it doesn't matter if you're in the right and they're in the wrong. It just doesn't matter. This is the society that the fucking Freemasons and people like Zay Frank and his father Johann Frank and Richard Hart and Tony Robbins and every fucking secret society dumb piece of shit. You guys love to take responsibility for how this society is going. Well, this is how it's going, you dumb cunts. This is how it's going. Where's my baby girl? Give her back to me. Or give me the compensation at least, because every fucking day I'm haunted by this. You try focusing enough to pin down a career and be productive when you have this hanging over you all the time. I dare you. And also wondering, maybe if I just forced them and been more assertive and said, please just take out the sonogram machine and just have a look. You blame yourself, you blame everybody. You just... Every time I see a mom with her little girl, it just breaks my heart and makes me more sour. Where's my daughter? And then child abusers get handed babies that aren't even theirs, right, Say? Right? Right. You're disgusting. This is hell. It has to be. Oh, God. This is hell. I'm in hell. I'm trapped in hell. Anyway, yeah, so I just thought I'd let you guys know, because there are a lot of parents out there too who are like, well, well, if the doctor drops the ball and something happens to my kid, I'll sue them. It's like, yeah, good luck with that. You fantasize that that's going to happen. But like more often than not, guess what? You're not going to be able to bring a case against them, particularly if it's a big hospital. They're going to have a big legal team. And unless there's like a really fruitful pot, there's a good chance you're going to get a lot of money, and whatever lawyer is going to get a good cut of that, you might just not get any justice for yourself or your kid. You might not get any compensation, nothing. No one will give a shit. In the end, no one will give a shit about your dead kid or your severely harmed, debilitated kid now because of whatever. If you can't square up against the clinic or the hospital and their legal team, you're fucked. That's where our society is now. All right. They don't do the best job they can because they think that they're untouchable, and in many ways they are. The average citizen can't afford to take on the legal teams for a big hospital like this. They just can't. So unless some kind lawyer out there is willing to do it pro bono, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. Or unless there was just like, I don't know. I don't know, because it just seems like there was clear negligence in my case. So I don't know, man. I don't know how overt the negligence has to be in order for somebody to be like, yeah, I don't care, even if we don't get any money for this, like, this shit needs to go to court. Like, nobody cared, guys. No one cared. No one was going to make money off of it, so no one cared. Yeah, so, you know what, I'll leave it at that.